said that her name was
Point of
misspelled.
information, Chairman, her name is pronounced Lima. I called and asked her. So from now on, it should be Kristen Lima. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much. And there it is, Kristen Lima. All right. Other than the correction of Kristen Lima's name,
And what was the correction? Sorry.
that it is Kristin instead of En. Okay. I'll entertain a motion to approve the minutes as corrected. Okay, Jackie, do I have a second? Second by Pam. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? And any abstentions? Alright, minutes have been passed. Okay, so we have, now recognition of public, we have 16 people. We are going to limit it to 2 minutes per person, and I will have a timer for you. Just a reminder for the public that when you are up there and doing your public speaking, the board cannot speak to you. We cannot answer any questions. We ask that you be respectful, and also when we say that your time is up, we ask that you please finish and sit back down. Okay? All right. First person, and we appreciate you guys being here. Brooklyn White. Where do you want me to? You can stand. There's a little microphone right there.
Right here?
Yep,
Cool.
it should be on.
And do you want me to just face towards you? Is that
Yeah.
make it the best?
You might have to push the button.
Let's see, this one here? Can you hear me now? Perfect.
We can hear you.
Okay. My name is Brooklyn White. I'm a resident of Gallatin, and I'm also a library card holder in our county. In anticipation of speaking here today about these amendments, I read through this 19-page document in entirety. To my knowledge, there's currently no fundraising policy in the Sumner County library system that requires an application process or one that specifically goes in front of the board. But I did notice that the fundraising policy has a date at the bottom that it says it was approved, so I was a little bit confused about that. Also, last meeting we kind of heard it wasn't meeting, it was canceled in April, but beforehand we spoke to somebody who said that was a misprint. But I noticed it wasn't changed before now, so I was confused about that. There's like strike-throughs and amendments in this policy that I have concerns about with regard to an entire section of policy for challenged books. It's about 3 pages long that's removed. And so I asked the board to consider that, and the fact that 17 pages of current long-standing policy are all being amended, additions are made, and removals are being made all in the same vote. So I had concerns about that. Let's see. Sorry, I know we have limited time, so I'm trying not to take up our time. I also have concerns about changes to several other parts of the current library board policy and ask the board to consider it's appropriate to make these amendments in one vote. While I'm grossly concerned about the removal of language requiring multiple viewpoints and the removal of the phrase constitutionally protected, as well as the blatant transphobia of this document, I'm going to allow the rest of the community to express their concerns. I know there's a lot of you that want to speak. Although you are appointed, the county commission is constitutionally elected, and therefore we are in fact your constituents. And I just want to end by cautioning the board about making sweeping changes and additions to long-standing policies and bringing many of these oversights in front of the board, as these board certs are termed and appointed positions. And I'm just going to leave it there. I do, though, have a copy of those amendments of the full document, and I just wanted to pass it out in case you didn't have one. I didn't know if you guys already
Thank you. My name is Jeff Wathier, and I live at 100 Villa Way in Hendersonville. I just wanted to thank you all for taking time out of your busy lives to help make the libraries fun and interesting and productive centers of learning. A lot of people think that libraries are just collections of books, but they're really not. They're places where we can gather together, share ideas, and do activities to help and further our understanding of culture and events. So I really appreciate everything you guys do to make that happen. I wanted to follow up on an email that I sent you all. If you didn't get one, it's probably because I guessed at some of the email addresses. But I do have printed copies here in case anyone wants to look at that. I wanted to address Agenda 7C, the collection policy. The proposed change, one of the proposed changes is to limit the number of digital copies that any library can hold of a certain resource. As you can see, I'm totally blind. I heavily depend on audiobooks. I'm an avid reader. But some of my neighbors are physically disabled, so they can't hold physical copies or they can't turn the pages, so they depend on ebooks. So if you're going to limit the number of copies to one of digital resources, how do you choose? Do you choose an audiobook? Do you choose an ebook? Do you discriminate against the blind patron or the patron that is physically disabled? If anyone on the board is wanting to vote in favor for that change, I just only ask that you discuss it so that we can hear why you're choosing to make a decision that really does not further the best interests of the patrons, the disabled patrons of our libraries. Thank you.
Thank you. Vincent Lombardi.
Hi, my name is Vince Lombardi, not related. I am a resident of Hendersonville and a retired teacher. I have taught government and economics for almost 30 years in the high school classrooms. I came up here today to speak to point F, which is a hiring procedure, but instead I'd like to make a note about population served. Population served by the board is everyone, and my push is for this board to use all available resources to make the best decisions possible to service the community and to do it well. One of my pushes is for you to use the resource for the American Library Association. They have tremendous resources, and instead of vilifying that organization, a realignment and a reinforming of what it is available to, like hiring practices. They've written things on best practices for library employees and best practices on hiring. They have job boards, they have job fairs, they have networking. So that is a resource that this library board can use to service the people in the community. I also want to reiterate, the fact that something that Brooklyn said before, that I am a voter and people in this room are voters, and we do vote. And we do vote for county commissioners in Sumner County. And it has not passed my nose that this board is appointed by that body. I want to thank you very much for your time, and I appreciate it.
Tyler Jones.
Afternoon. I'm Tyler Jones. I'm a resident of Portland. I am reading a letter written on behalf of Michelle Harbin, also a resident of Portland. This is my understanding of how the funding for libraries currently works. The county covers salaries, building maintenance, and some circulated items. Friends funds cover programming such as summer reading, bingo, storytime, arts and crafts, and updates to library areas. The Friends groups legally have full control of how their funds are used as long as it is from a recognized legal nonprofit in the state of Tennessee. The following definition is sourced from Tennessee.gov. A nonprofit organization is defined in Tennessee as any corporation, trust, association, co-op, or other organization that operates primarily for scientific, educational, service, charitable, or similar purposes in the public interest, functions for the purposes other than to gain profit, and uses the net proceeds to maintain, improve, or expand its operations. Friends groups often receive donations for special needs, such as in Portland, we have a donor that pays for Ancestry.com software. We have another who left a large endowment after her death to be specifically used for book purchases. It is the responsibility of the Friends to ensure these funds are spent exactly as requested by donors. Library board members are not active members or elected officers that can legally touch or allocate these funds. Expenditures of Friends funds have to be approved by voting members. The meetings follow Robert's Rules of Order. An expenditure gets brought as a motion and has to be seconded and approved by the voting body. The only way the library board can get a say is if they all pay dues, officially become members of each Friends chapter, and attend meetings and vote on those expenditures individually. That it?
You still got 10 more seconds.
This seems pretty black and white to me. As a member and former president of the Portland Friends, I do not see any legal path in which the library board can access or control the use of the money raised by the 501c3 Friends group.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Hello, Louder.
Good afternoon. I sent you guys a lengthy email. I'm not going to take your time reading it to you again. I'll just hit some of the high points. I know that many people here sat through school board meetings where we were told that any book that was deemed inappropriate for the schools, that we shouldn't worry about it because it would be available at the public library. To go to the public library because that's where books for all people belong. Yet here, reading the proposed changes to the bylaws, it seems that these bylaws want to restrict book access at the public libraries further and further. I understand that public libraries are subject to state legislation, and I think that with this policy, taking book challenges, collections policies, and placing it all under simply the library board to unilaterally make these decisions, kind of taking the trained directors out of the equation, taking the public out of the equation. You know, if somebody has a problem with a book, I understand that they should have a way to make their concern known. But then we had a process. The bylaws have had a process that's worked, where you report it to the director looks at it, and it makes its way through the process. Now all of a sudden it wants to be that if anybody has a problem with a book, they bring it to the board and it's in or out like that. I think that we're a very diverse community. We need a very diverse library. I think that having, it talks about taking away balanced views on subjects. We want our kids to be critical thinkers. How are they going to do that if they don't have access to varying views on a myriad of subjects? Thank you.
So sorry guys, but if we're gonna get through this, we're going to not do the last. Okay, thank you. Okay, so Mike, I click. Okay.
All right, I'm a volunteer at the Hendersonville Library. Go there once or twice a week. My goals are to, any books purchased, I'd like it posted on the website, what books are purchased and where they're purchased from. Special note, Amazon, Barnes & Nobles do not carry all conservative books. Number 2, any books removed from the shelf, post on your website prior to any removal what books you want removed from the shelf, why, and who requested it. Point number 3, Control should be at the library level. Let them take care of it. If they don't do a good job, replace them. Have the board do their job, the local library do theirs. Core metrics are people reading. For your information, in 2025, total borrower from 23 to 24, total borrowers were 40,000. In 25, there were 46,000. Library visits, 16,000. Library visits in 24, 27,000. Computer users in 2023 were 890. In 24, there's 6,000 plus. Attendance, 2,462. Program attendance was 4,594. Physical collection, 94,000. Physical collection in 24, 96,000. Passive program attendance, 2,500. Passive program attendance was 2,925. All these metrics have increased this year. Alicia was keeping track of these metrics. The things that the library does extremely well, there's a new teen room. Some days they have 40 people. That's why your attendance is up, okay? Large print books are made. That mystical thing called a computer tells you whether they're using small print or large print books. So when hiring a librarian, get somebody that's computer literate, and you can serve the community and use the data in your computer.
Thank you.
Thanks.
All right, Patricia Smith.
My name is Patricia Smith. I've talked to you before. I live in Hendersonville at 112 England Place. I want to thank you again for all of your hard work. I know that this is a appointed and this board is that you're unpaid, and I appreciate everything that you do. I think that your time is well worth more than dealing with policies that aren't any good. And so I'm going to talk about the fundraising policy that's proposed and the collection policy that's proposed. And they're both very bad policies. You're going to end up with a lawsuit, either one. I'm going to read the rest of Michelle Harbin's remarks on the fundraising policy. The proposal of this policy, the fundraising policy, shows the lack of qualifications by this board to properly, legally, and effectively govern our libraries and should be thrown out immediately. I'm going to ask you to just disregard these policies, to throw them out. One of the reasons is that these policies are heavily edited and they never went through your committee for the development of policies. And that should happen first before anything does. So I would really like for you to just vote these down. They are not good policies. The collections policy has, there's been a new collection policy. We have directors who know how to do this, and they're doing a really good job. So you don't need those policies. Thank you.
So, Jesse McKinney.
Hi, I'm Jessie, and I'm going to try to keep this short. I've emailed you multiple times about my concerns with the proposed collections policy, specifically the section that's titled Transgender and Gender Confusing Materials. What this proposed section would do would be to restrict or remove any book that has information about transgenderism, gender identity, or having trans characters. It would remove it to an adult section of the library. As a public institution, it's the library's responsibility to uphold the First Amendment, which guarantees the right of all young people in Sumner County to read and learn absent of bias or viewpoint restriction. Information about transgender people and gender identity is not inherently sexually explicit or dangerous to minors. It should not be restricted. If you restrict minors' access to this information, it violates the First Amendment, plain and simple. As I have shared via email with you and with the law director, members of the Library Board of Greenville, South Carolina are currently being sued for a similar policy which removed minors' access to information about transgender information and gender nonconforming people. Unfortunately, the proposed changes that we are seeing today are part of a national effort to divide our families and our neighbors. It's intentional, it's organized, it's funded, and it's coordinated. But it's also not what Sumner County values. Transgender people are members of our families, our neighbors, our colleagues, our friends. They have always existed and they will always exist, even here in Sumner County. We must keep our libraries inclusive of all people and all identities. They need to be places where we are all free to find information and stories that help us understand ourselves and each other.
Guys, I'm gonna ask you to be respectful. I asked you not to do the applause afterwards, okay? Thank you. I appreciate it. Jolene Cannon.
Hello, my name is Jolene Cannon, 159 Womack Road in Portland. First of all, thank you, board members, for being here, and thank you for the public being here. We all obviously care about the libraries. I'm going to read a letter from Cheryl Smith, who is an attorney, that was sent to Ms. Daniels and the library board. It was also sent to Eric Sittler, the Sumner County Law Director, the Sumner County Commissioners, and the Friends of the Portland Library Board. Sorry. Dear Ms. Daniels, I am writing to you on behalf of the Friends of the Elmer Hinton Memorial Library Incorporated, aka Friends of the Portland Library, the Friends, with respect to the fundraising policy that has been submitted for approval by the Sumner County Library Board, the board. As you are aware, the Friends are an autonomous 501c3 charitable organization with its own articles of incorporation, bylaws, its own board, and its own mission statement. The role of the board The role of the Friends is to support the Portland Public Library, the library, and work in collaboration with the board, the Portland Library Director, the director, and the library. Its focus is fundraising, advocacy, and volunteer work. A nonprofit charitable organization must use its resources in a manner consistent with its articles of incorporation, bylaws, and mission statement. Accordingly, the Friends is not subject to control of the use of its funds by any other entity and maintains ultimate control over how its funds are used in furtherance of its mission statement. The duties of the library board, as set forth in TCA 10.3.104 and as explained in the Regional Library System's Library Service Agreement, do not extend to governance of the Friends. The board has no authority to require approval of the library board to conduct fundraising activity. Further, the board has no authority to direct how funds raised and donated for a particular purpose are to be used. The Friends may direct how funds are to be used in a manner consistent with its mission statement and bylaws. Often fundraising activities are carried out in support of a specific purpose, program, goal, or need of the library. Donations received.
Thank you. All right, Rick Grimm. Did I get it right? Is it Grimm or Grimm?
Grimm. Afternoon, I'm Rick Grimm, 475 A.B. Wade, Portland, Tennessee, and also a member of the Friends of the Library. Concerning the fundraising policy that you have looked at, hopefully, I have a few questions. First of all, this policy has never existed prior to the 2nd of April, and it was brought up at the bylaws and policy committee meeting on the 2nd of April. Prior to that time, it just didn't exist at all. And all of a sudden, we need this policy. It's interesting, the fact that things have gone along very well over the last many years of the Friends and anybody who wants to donate money to the library to do so without any interference. The interesting thing is, and I'm a little embarrassed to bring this up to you, but on page 2 of this form, of this policy, it says approved by the Board of Library Trustees, 21st September 2011. Why is that even on here? Because this policy never existed, nor was it ever approved by the Sumner County Library Board. I'm embarrassed for you that this remains on this document. This document was found from another library board and was now brought to this library board, said this, we gotta do this. This is good. Well, and on page 4, you will find part of the application. Then it states on line 3, indemnity insurance attached with application, if not friends of the library or foundation. Come on. Who in the heck is going to bring in indemnity insurance to do a fundraiser for the good of the public? All we are doing with this fundraising policy is hurting the library. We're hurting the public in general and our kids who are coming to the library because the programs are not funded.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Richard? Primrose?
Yeah, got it.
Okay.
Hi there. My name is Richard Primrose, 432 Triple Crown Circle, Gallatin, Tennessee, 37066. My message is really brief. It touches on the fundraising policy. Some of the members of the board seem to relish the weakening of the library and want to pounce on any opportunity to restrict it further. This is my 3rd meeting I've attended, and I've heard nothing about expanding any library programs or better serving the community. I just think the community deserves a better champions for our library, and I don't trust the board to make good decisions.
Heather Sublett?
My name is Heather Sublett, and I live in Gallatin. The Sumner County Library Board has essentially said the quiet part out loud with the changes they are making to the collection development and management policy, that their personal values are the only ones that matter, and any ideas or people that don't conform to those do not belong and should be rejected. They have stricken the guidelines that, quote, a balanced view of all subjects, unquote, should be a factor in choosing new materials because they only want their view represented. They have stricken the goal of, quote, meeting the educational, informational, and recreational needs of the community, unquote, from the development plan to keep people in the dark about evidence and opinions that are contrary to their own. They have added a new section dedicated to the marginalization of trans, gender fluid, and gender nonconforming people, which bans completely materials that, quote, make mention of or promoting or, quote, subjecting a minor to transgender or, quote, gender confusion ideology. Furthermore, that language has added prohibiting the fulfillment of requests for, quote, materials promoting transgender or gender confusion in minors. These are human beings, and the board has decided they do not even deserve a place in our public libraries while using incorrect and marginalizing language of, quote, promoting, subjecting, and gender confusion ideology, which the board would be aware of if they availed themselves of the educational materials they now want to make inaccessible to library patrons. They have stricken language from the censorship and access section, which would, quote, uphold the right of individuals to access and acquire information to ideas and information representing a various viewpoints, unquote, which will allow for censorship and direct violation of our First Amendment rights.
Thank you so much. Will you Carrie Usher? Carrie Usher. One last time. Or Corey Usher? No? All right. Tracy Parker.
Good afternoon. I appreciate y'all's service and being here. I'm not going to speak to you about the fundraising policy because it's illegal and it'll take care of itself. If you'll go to the collection policy, I want to point out a couple things. I live in Gallatin. I've been a school librarian for 26 years. Section selection process, the part where it says newly purchased or to be purchased, that's redundant. Either get approval before or just look for it after. Selection guideline, I'm very concerned about the lack of balance. If I went to Kroger and they only served or selected certain products that they thought was what was best for me, I probably wouldn't shop there anymore. The policy for protecting children from harmful, sexually explicit material in the library is really based more on the Age Appropriate Act, which was aimed at school libraries and not public libraries. And the whole part of the policy about all the sexual particulars, I don't want to shock you, but I teach middle school and I have for 30 years, and my 6th graders are having sex. And if I could give them a book to read for them to understand why that's not a great idea, I would do it in a heartbeat. It was the reason I didn't have sex in high school, was because I had read a bunch of books where it all went crazy, and I didn't want to do those things. The development plan adjusts where it says, while creating a safe environment. I was unaware that we did not have a safe environment. It says here also that we are going to take away to meet the educational, informational, and recreational needs of the community. What the heck? If you flip that page over, they're crossing out the striving to provide a balanced collection. That is completely what the public library is about. I need to know what a Marxist believes in order to refute why I would disagree with that, or anything else for that matter.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Skylar? No? Okay. Krista?
I am Skylar. Hello.
Okay. Well, y'all just couldn't hear me.
So, I'm Skylar DeVos, 120 Dawnman Drive in Hendersonville, Tennessee. I'm here to speak in response to the proposed changes to the library collection policy. I believe these changes strike at the very foundation of what it means to be a public library. A public library is a public good built to serve the community and the whole range of community interests. It provides balanced information and resources because only by providing access to all views can community members become deeply informed themselves. The proposed changes strike the word balance. They remove language about meeting the recreational needs of the community. They change the mission of the library to focus on factually correct materials, as though we can all figure that out immediately. All of this in addition to the section about removing any undefined gender confusion ideology. The section under censorship and access removes all language about the importance of providing access to many and diverse viewpoints, and instead introduces a policy for reporting and removing materials. This changes it from a statement against censorship into a how-to for censorship. There appears to be no process for appealing any such removals. These proposed changes introduce rot at the root of a basic community service. Libraries provide a beautiful service to the community. They are open to all, they are built to serve all, and they have a responsibility to all. The idea that they should no longer provide a range of views on subjects, or that their mission should no longer be to meet the educational, informational, and recreational needs of the community, the idea that the board can remove materials without appeal, seems deeply contradictory to what a library is and does. It is my deeply held belief that these changes are morally wrong and should not be accepted. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Krista Windhorst. I'm a resident of Hendersonville. I've read this policy front and back several times, and I do agree wholeheartedly with everyone who's spoken here today. I think that's very brave to come up and speak at all. I did want us to take a step back from not only these changes that are wild, but just how deeply authoritarian they seem. It's like there are many authors within our own libraries that have warned us about these changes. George Orwell, Ray Bradbury are great examples. Taking away the ability for anyone to read any book is just, I feel, deeply un-American. I feel like our ancestors fought this war after war after war. And why are we trying to make this happen here at home? We have fought, like my great-grandparents have fought against these ideals. There are nations now that we are actively fighting against, like China and North Korea and Iran, that do these exact things. And their people are so oppressed, and it starts here at home in our libraries. Why are we doing this to ourselves? I truly don't understand why we would try to discriminate against anyone in our own backyard, people we know, people we love. I really urge you to just throw out these changes, these things that, you know, truly bring out the worst in people. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, and again, we appreciate the public being here, and we appreciate you all. You know, we moved into the chambers so that everyone can be more comfortable. We also moved into chambers that way everyone could be here. That is a choice that we had, and that we went and I made so that you guys could be here. However, if you disrupt the meeting, you have the right to be here. You have the right to listen. We want to show you respect, and we ask that you show us respect. Okay? But you have the right to be here, but you don't have the right to interrupt the meeting. So I'm going to ask you to be respectful. I'm going to ask for you to be to watch the process, to let the process go through and do what is going to happen. I do have Sheriff here, and if you do...
Oh yeah. Back me up, baby. Let's go. I'm like freedom. Freedom, baby.
We appreciate you.
Give me
I'm
a
gonna ask
rest.
you,
That's
please,
freedom, baby.
please remove yourself if you're going to be disruptive. I'm going to ask you to do that right now. Thank you so much. All right. All right, so we appreciate it. So we ask that you just please be respectful, and we will respect you as we did, as we listened to you. Thank you so much. All right, so that concludes the recognition of the public, and now the report of the chairman. We have had a pretty big year. This has been a very eventful year. This has been in my opinion, just an absolutely amazing year. We have, we've taken on a lot of policies. You know, a lot of these policies weren't looked at for years. And we've been able to update a lot of policies. We've been able to come together and get a lot of stuff done. We did our first director evaluations. We have, as a board, welcomed new board members, and unfortunately, we lost a board member, Jim Holcomb, but we've had a pretty amazing year, and I just wanted to, as the chairman of this board, just thank you all so much for the hard work. We did our first budget, a true budget hearings this year, so there's a whole lot of firsts that happened this year, and just wanted to say that appreciate you all so much, and there's a lot of misconceptions around what we do, how we are appointed, what is our responsibility, what is our governing responsibility, and those misconceptions unfortunately do cause some unrest, and I just want you all to know that I really appreciate you all for being here, and I know you don't get paid. None of us get paid, and we spend numerous hours because I know that each of you love the libraries. And the only reason that you are giving of your time, giving of your money, giving of your heart, is because you all love the library so much. And I want you to know that I know that in the emails from numerous people, we are appreciated. Numerous people have emailed us, and and just appreciate you all. So thank you all so much for being part of this board and for serving and for doing an amazing job this year. Thank you. Okay, so now we're going to go on to new business. And let's see if I can after this. One second. Okay. So the first is going to be the election of officers. So we're first going to do the election of officers, and we have chair, vice chair, treasurer, and secretary. We will first start with chair. Do we have a nomination for chair?
I would like to renominate Joanna Davis.
Okay. Joanna. Do we have any other nominations?
I would like to nominate Pam Teller.
Pam Teller. Pam, do you accept the nomination? I do not. Okay. Any other nominations? Okay. So the nomination for Joanna, do I have a second for Joanna as chair? I second the nomination. Second by Kaylee. All right, motion has been made and second. Do all in favor say aye? Aye. Anybody opposed? Aye. Opposed, Shannon, Paul, and Jackie. All right. Any abstentions? Okay, motion passes. Okay, so we'll go on to vice chair. Nominations for vice chair. I nominate Mike Bryan. I second. Do you accept the nomination? Okay. Okay, do we have another nomination for vice chair? All right. So, Mike Bryan for vice chair, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay, Mike, congratulations, you're vice chair. All right. Treasurer. Do you have nominations for treasurer? I nominate Pam Teller for treasurer. Okay, so read it. Okay. Okay. Do you accept? Pam? Okay. All in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Congratulations, Kate. And secretary.
I would like to nominate Kaylee Wilson.
Kaylee, would you like to accept the nomination?
Yes.
Yes. Second by Mike. All right. Any other nominations? All in favor say aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Officers are Joanna for chair, Mike Bryan for vice chair, Pam Teller for treasurer, and Kaylee Wilson for secretary. Thank you so much. All right. Now we're going to move on to the interim pay for Kristen. Lima. Just about to find my name. So bad with names. Okay, so Jackie, you asked for this to guys are okay with me signing the paperwork. So, I'll entertain a motion to allow the chair to sign the paperwork so that Kristen can get her pay. So moved. So moved by Erica. Second by Mike. All in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? Okay. Okay. Alright. So now we're going to move on to the collection and development policy. Alright, so, you all should have in front of you the collection and development policy. I might have to go to a seat. I have a lot of, notes and everything. I'm gonna try to do it up here, but not on my moved seat. So, alright. And so we have the collection development policy on the floor. Well, motion for discussion. So, Kaylin, second by Erica. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Any abstentions? No? Okay. All right. So, as we know, this is a very highly controversial issue, and collection development policy, the first time came around, it was because we were ordered by the state to make these changes, and so we did. Want to inform the public that this is not a bylaws, this is a policy, and so there is a lot to be said here. So I also I have been looking over this even more after it came out of committee, because it did go to committee. The policy, the draft that you guys are looking at did come out of policies and bylaws committee. And then I actually had extra time to look at it and want to give you guys a copy of suggested changes.
No. Yeah. How long have you had these suggested changes pre-done?
Yeah.
It's not right.
My question, this is an enormous policy that is riddled with errors, and you're bringing us changes that you've made that we are seeing for the first time in a public meeting, Joanna? Come on.
That's the way it is. Yeah, vote no.
I make a motion to table this policy entirely.
I wanted to be sure to get over here before I answered you so that everyone could hear me. As it is in commissioners, being a commissioner, and in any public forum, anyone can bring changes to a meeting. It is absolutely normal process for people to amend anything that they want to when it comes to a policy. So, you haven't even looked at these, so we're going to move forward as normal in any normal meeting. Oh, Cecily?
I just make a point where I'm just not sure that this is sunshine. And of course, there's
Yeah, is there a legal counsel here?
There's no legal counsel, and also how does this violate library board by an individual thereof. I took out factually correct materials, and it says on number 2, strives to provide a collection with an emphasis on informational and educational materials. Second from the bottom, strives to provide materials that conform to the fundamental law, informing and defining the unalienable rights protected by the Tennessee Constitution and the Constitution of the United States. And then want to understand the electronic copy. And one electronic copy, when we were writing this, isn't meaning only an audiobook, only a DVD, only anything like that. It means there's an electronic copy in every form, but there's only two copies available of every form. So electronic copies is every electronic format. But additional copies will be written by written request of the library board. So they can get more copies, you just have to let us know. Because again, the library board oversees all budget, and we just need to know where the money's going. So, all right. In reference to the Library Association, the tools, library directors shall not reference the American Library Association. I want to bring attention to this, that in a memo by Secretary of State Trey Hargett in 2023, because people were accusing Trey Hargett and the state of Tennessee being part of the ALA, and it very upset a lot of people. He stated that we are not members of the ALA. Now, they've shared an archived webpage from the ALA from 2008 to 2009, but state of Tennessee is not a member of the ALA, does not require that any libraries or library system be part of the ALA. And he stated that when a book is under review, not the state, not the TLA, nor the ALA decides if that book is to remain in that library. It is up to the local library board. So, since we are not part of the ALA, and obviously Secretary of State Trey Hargett made it very apparent and clear that Tennessee does not support the ALA, and when we wrote these collection and development policies in 2023, we intentionally took any reference to the ALA out of these collection and development policies because we do not in any way want to support the ALA. So I also stated in here that library directors shall not pay dues to any organizations such as the American Library Association or affiliates of the American Library Association.
American Library Association. Just wanted to clarify.
If you go on to the next section, that is yellow, I put, now understand that what I'm writing here is accepting a majority of the changes that were already made and just adding. So, as most of you know that have been on the library board for some time, when we implemented this library board policy in 2023, we had tremendous pushback requiring permission slips from parents or guardians or minors, or an individual requesting that materials be placed in an area inaccessible to minors. And that means that the library directors are to be proactive. They aren't to act only when someone brings a book forth. They're supposed to be being proactive to make sure that the collection is in alignment with the policy. Library directors shall be proactive in implementing this policy. The library board shall have full authority under TCA 10.3.104 to hold the library director accountable.
Ooh. No.
So,
No.
I bring this to your attention,
That ain't
as I'm sure that you guys have seen some of the emails going through.
This is getting Orwellian.
There was a person that wrote in just recently asking that policy to remove transgender books and then also to inappropriate as any sexually explicit. Okay, let's see. We asked followers as Christ balanced on policy to remove transgender books from the public libraries. This is probably the 5th email we have sent a few responses back. There was 0 reason to have sexually inappropriate books in tax-funded libraries. Now, response to that was from Commissioner Boyd. She said, the library board, not the county commissioners, is solely responsible for managing the county public library's book collection, which is true. We are. I understand the library board has an ongoing process to review and potentially remove books. You may want to contact the library board for a list of reviewed and removed books. I regret I couldn't assist further, as I have no authority over library books. Currently, the commissioner's only option would be to replace library board members. And then, Commissioner Westwood said, Commissioner Klein, I'm talking about Commissioner Klein, said, Commissioner Klein has exemplified political finger pointing. Bring your attention that 6 of the 9 current library board members were appointed to address this very concern over 1 year ago. All 6 were supported by Commissioner Klein, but please check the minutes yourself to verify. These 6 members were single-use appointments, single-issue appointments, and very vocal about addressing this shared concern. 6 is a fairly strong majority on this body, and with that number should have 0 issues with passing an acceptable policy. I am too concerned with the lack of progress made by those that promised to address it. Commissioner Klein's suggestion of only contacting commissioners that didn't vote for it, didn't vote for more of the same, I'm sure is well intended, but putting the onus of correcting the issue on those individuals responsible for the oversight of our libraries and holding these individuals accountable to their promises is the best course of action. As
Keep the
Commissioner
church out of my
Wood
library.
stated, the only
Keep the church
recourse
out of
the
my
commission
library.
has at this time is to remove members of the body while also learning from the mistakes of the past to establish. So, with that being said, and with the resolution that was brought before the commissioners, it is our responsibility as a board to make sure that the libraries are safe. It's also our responsibility to enforce the policies. And we've had this policy, we've had the sexually explicit policy in place now for a year. And so at this time, I want to put in this that we shall have full authority under the TCA code to hold the library board, library directors accountable. Because although we make policy, they are supposed to be enforcing it. Okay. Next one, under 7, I took out bona fide and just put research by adults. Okay. All right. So now we will get on to the transgender and gender confusing materials. This is not an easy subject. This is not an easy thing that we came to, but when we received numerous books challenged in the Portland Library, and others have brought up books that have been challenged. It was time to obviously take this on. As we know, transgender is something that is a hot topic and has been. Transgender is something that is emotion charged, but when we make policy, we have to remember that we have to make the right decision. So we cannot make humans virtuous or moral by the enacting of laws or policies. But law and public policies can recognize the truth of man and woman. Respecting, I will clear the room. I will clear the room.
You know what? I'm going to see myself out, but I just cannot believe that you guys say that this is West Sumner County.
I need for you to remove. Sheriff, can you please remove her?
I'll see myself out.
Hold on. First warning. It's a public meeting, I get it. Let's keep our emotions in check, please. If you're going to leave, please leave. Give her respect, and in return, give them respect.
She received respect. So what you're doing is disrespectful to human beings.
Okay, we cannot make humans virtuous or moral by enacting of laws or policies, but law and public policies can recognize the truth of man and woman. Respecting law, that truth is found in common law, that is the foundation for Tennessee's jurisprudence, the United States Constitution. The truth is that we are man and woman, and from that society comes into being. The common law is grounded in man and woman. This is reflected in Tennessee statutes such as TCA 751-1802 and Public Chapter Number 1, which was carried by Representative William Lambert and Senator Farrell Hale. We have a duty to create a collection in our limited budget that gives us the authority to not shelve books that promote what is contrary to and inconsistent with those laws. Exercise of this duty is not banning books. Every day our library directors make choices about which books to purchase with monies from taxpayers. These choices must create a collection that does not violate state and local laws. I'm reading my notes. I'm reading my So the new part that I wrote in here was so that we can use the statutes already in place to define our policy. There shall be no materials in the collection of the libraries of Sumner County subjecting, introducing, condoning, or encouraging a minor to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with his or her biological sex at birth, as described in Act 2023 PC1. There shall be no materials in the collection of the libraries of Sumner County subjecting, introducing, condoning, or encouraging any person aged 18 and older to identify with or live as a purported identity inconsistent with the sex they are assigned at birth, as defined in TCA 421-102. Library directors shall be proactive in implementing this policy. The library board shall have full authority under TCA 10.3.104 to hold the library director accountable. As we know, in the state of Tennessee, there are already in place laws for sports, laws for bathrooms, and as you know, the law that went into place prohibits any surgeries other library board policies, as many library boards do, and try to navigate that and try to see what is working for other boards. So the following principles guide the acceptance and administration of gifts and donations to the libraries of Sumner County. All gifts donations will be evaluated for appropriateness and potential value in support of the mission of Sumner County Libraries in accordance with other existing policies. All gifts will be received within the current strictures of law and tax regulations. The Sumner County Library Board, library directors, and staff are under no obligation to accept gifts, items, or funds and reserve the right to refuse any gift. So we had not had that in there, and I just believe that it would be important to have that in there for donations. Monetary gifts. Now that we've gone through this, the libraries of Sumner County greatly accept monetary donations. The money will go through the proper protocols given by the county commission. The county commission or director of finance will provide the donor with a letter to acknowledge the benefit to the library and meet the documentation requirement for the donor's tax purposes as per the resolution set forth by the Sumner County Commission. Monetary donations, unless made payable to the friends of the library of a designated branch, shall be kept in a restricted account as designated by the county commission for the designated library. Funds shall be used for the designated library at the discretion of the library board. Unrestricted monetary gifts, undesignated donations that are accepted by the Library County Commission unless made payable to the friends of the library of a designated branch, shall be kept in a restricted account as designated by the County Commission for the designated library. Funds shall be used for the designated library at the discretion of the library board. And then specific requests and restriction donations that are accepted by the Sumner County Commission are set aside according to the wishes of the donor for the designated library. Depending on the size of the contribution and its requested use, the funds may be set aside in an interest-generating account for future use. The library understands and respects its legal obligation to honor the wishes of the donor when accepting restricted funds. All money donated for library materials will be utilized to enhance the library's collection in accordance with the library's Sumner County Collection Development and Management Policy. Okay. The other one is under duplicates. Just additional copies will be by written request to the library board. I did change censor and what's it called? Censor and what's called censor and access to review and access. I was advised to take censor out of the policy. So review and access. All right, library materials reconsideration policy. As was stated in the committee, we have been told, and it has been very well made aware by the commission, that the buck stops with us when it comes to the books in the library. It has made.
Excuse me, point of order, when did the commission vote on making you aware of that? You said we have been made aware by the commission.
We've been made aware by members of the commission. Is that right? Thank you. Thank you. Members, I appreciate you making sure that I clarify that. I really appreciate it.
I also want to clarify when you spoke to the resolution, that resolution did not pass.
You are correct. But it was brought to the commission, is what I said.
And it was not
Exactly.
brought, it was not added to the agenda, and it was not brought to the commission.
Okay, thank you.
So that the audience can.
So-
Thank you.
All right. And so this is the reason why we took the challenges to collection content and reduced it all, because honestly, like such as right now, there have been books that have been challenged since February, and we still haven't received an update on those. And in all honesty, as I was made aware, that the buck does stop with us. So So there's no reason to add a middle person or a middleman in there. Might as well just bring the books directly to us. Then we can vote, we can look at them, and we can choose on whether or not for them to be in there. So, and then if you look on there, the director shall report in writing any verbal challenges to the library board. Many people have come up to me and said that they've done verbal challenges. They don't want to put their name down, which is, I understand it's intimidating. So we just want the directors to let us know. That's it. The director will notify the board within 24 hours if the materials are challenged due to the policy protecting children from harmful, sexually explicit, or transgender. Then materials shall be pulled from the shelf and the director shall notify the board within 24 hours. So therefore, what that is stating is that if someone challenges the book, they don't necessarily have to pull the book, only if it goes against the sexually explicit and the transgender policy. And then I put back in there on the request for reconsideration, have you read or viewed this material?
You replaced that? I'm sorry, I didn't.
You're getting rid of it.
You have it
tabling. Mike? So we're gonna recess for 5 minutes.
It was tabled. It'll go to subcommittee, they'll work it all out, we'll all come back and do it again. Yeah, that's correct.
By the way, if anyone wants a copy of that letter from the lawyer, Mr. Riggs has copies of it. You didn't bring it.
Your sunglasses. Every once in a while, you turn one way. I was seeing this. I thought, what is this? And then I finally realized it was sunglasses. Yeah, well, they're black. No, that's a lot.
From Iceland. You have to be in Iceland.
Did you all bring the dog that I'm seeing?
The dog? No, I saw my dog.
Just be gentle when I go with you. Be gentle when I go with you.
Channel 17. Test it.
So to start off, if you could just spell your name for me.
Sure, my name is Paul McCoy, Paulmccoy.
And you're a member of the board?
I am.
Give me a quick, tell me about what happened today.
Well, we're still in the meeting, but the first thing that happened was there was a collections policy up for review. The chair brought